are someone who would love to read more poetry, but you are unsure of where to begin, don't worry, I've got you covered. My name is Ebony, and I am an avid reader of poetry. And here are some beginner-friendly poetry recommendations that I think can spark your joy for reading poetry. I have done a video similar to this a few years back, but I think it's time that we update it and refresh the recommendations. All of these collections I think are awesome because they use simplistic language, meaning nothing overly complicated is happening in terms of the form and structure of the poems, but they still say very profound, interesting things of life. And I think a good poem in general is a poem that kind of gives you that eureka moment where you have known something and you've experienced something as a human being, but you've never been able to really put it into words. I think that is what a good poem does, and I think that all of these collections that are listed here will give you a few of those moments. So with that, I would like to begin with the first collection, which is Promises of Gold. This is by Jose Olivarez. It reads almost like rap songs or rap lyrics, just very alive, very musical poetry, but it doesn't always rhyme. It just has a rhythm to it that is alive and beating. These poems are all based on kind of what is a promise and how golden promises are ones that are kept. And this poetry collection ponders colonialism, the American dream, especially for a Mexican American family. Also, the speaker of the poems is a man, and he is pondering the ways in which toxic masculinity has defined how he behaves in his familial relationships, his friendships, and then also his romantic relationships with a woman who he has married. So I love this collection, and what is very, very intriguing is we have this side and then also this side. On half of the book we have the poems in the English translation, and the other half are the poems in the Spanish translation, which I think is awesome. Next, I would love to recommend a poet who I was a little intimidated by, but I found the collection to be very accessible, and that was Farrokhzad's Let Us Believe in the Beginning of the Cold Season. This is translated from Persian. Farrokhzad unfortunately passed away in an accident at a very early age, but what is very interesting and a bit eerie about this collection is that the speaker of the poems often contemplates the temporality or the temporariness of who we are in this life and what happens once we're gone. It also has stunning love poetry, also contemplates or speaks a lot to God and spirituality. So if that's something that you enjoy reading in poetry, I think you should check this out. But I loved this collection. It made it to my top 5 reads from last year. And once again, I just felt like it was super accessible. This is an excerpt from The Sun Comes Out. Look, all of my existence crumbles. A spark devours me. It carries me to the zenith. It traps me. Look, all of my sky fills with shooting stars. I love this collection once again. I also highly recommend. So many people rave about this collection. I have not seen one bad review about Let Us Believe in the Beginning of the Cold Season. So I think if you are a beginner poetry reader or you would like to spark your love for poetry, definitely check this one out as well. Of course, every video that I make of these, I am screaming from the mountaintops that everyone should read Mary Oliver. I think of Mary Oliver as my go-to recommendation for poetry readers at all levels. I think especially for beginners, because she just gives you so many of those eureka moments. This is Devotions, which is a collection of Mary Oliver's selected poems from each of her poetry collections, spanning from the beginning of her career to the later half or the later portion of her career. Mary Oliver is a nature poet. She idolizes Walt Whitman, and she just has such a beautiful understanding of nature and our role in humans within kind of this like cycle or this web of existence. So this is When I Am Among the Trees. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locusts, equally the beech, the oaks, the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me in daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, stay a while. The light flows from their branches, and they call again, it's simple, they say, and you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine. I love her. Another poetry collection that I recommend, that is my current read. This is Anodyne, and this is by Khadijah Queen. These poems are very accessible language, but also very beautiful. It says, Anodyne considers the small moments that enrapture us alongside the daily threats of cataclysm, which is where these poems exist. There's poems here on a mother and son relationship during which the mother feels tired and weary in her body, but her mind is strong and she feels as though she can keep loving her son, and he's experiencing his own sadness. But there are also poems in here about joy and playfulness in spite of cataclysm and what it means to survive and be in this world and to take in all the beauty of the world. I think these poems are stunning so far, and I definitely think that you should check it out as well. A collection that I read last year that I think everyone needs to read is No Sweet Without Brine. This is by Cynthia, Manick, and this collection is about womanhood, specifically Black womanhood, and what that means in this world. The politicization why does that word sound weird, of the Black body, the Black woman body, more so to the joys of womanhood, what it meant to be a young girl getting your hair done by your mother, what it would be like reading a Vice magazine, and just fully embracing your womanhood and your Blackness. I loved these poems so much, and in it I felt a little called out because Cynthia Manick does kind of have a piece on here on nature poets and why she herself doesn't, or why the speaker of the poem doesn't identify as a nature poet. But I'm going on a tangent. These poems exist once again in the sweetness of the briny bits of life, and how what makes a beautiful existence is kind of being able to bask in both of those things and know that without the briny bits of life you can't experience the sweetness and you can't really appreciate all of the good. So once again, I recommend this collection. A poet I think that everyone should read, who is once again very accessible, also United States Poet Laureate, is Limon. I've read 3 of her collections so far, and they have each been very, very good. This is The Hurting Kind. I read this last year as well. I thought that these poems were very beautiful in the way that they contemplated our interconnectedness to nature, to our families, to our lineage, our ancestors, and then also for those who we are currently experiencing life with and who comes after us. There are a lot of ruminations here on innocence, the loss of innocence, how relationships change as we grow old. All right, so my camera overheated. So I believe I was in the middle of talking about The Hurting Kind, but yes, definitely check this out. Hopefully I said enough about it already before my camera overheated. Next book I would recommend is What to Eat, What to Drink, and What to Leave for Poison. This is by Camille T. Dungy, and I love this collection. One of my favorites of last year as well. I found the language to be stunningly captivating and accessible, and the subject matter of the poems ranged from the most romantic, lush poetry on nature and the beauty of spring and growth, all the way to the struggles that Americans faced, Black Americans faced, following like the civil rights movement within that era, that transitionary time. And I think it does a very good job of kind of going back to Cynthia Manick and how she basically says that some poets don't have the luxury of just writing about nature. They also have to kind of evoke their existence and what that means as a resistance, whether that be to colonialism, to the patriarchy, to racism. Camille T. Dungy does a great job of balancing both, I think, and that's why I love this collection so much. So please check it out. And the namesake poem, What to Eat, What to Drink, What to Leave for Poison, had me gasping. It is a poem, a longer poem that is broken down into a few different sections, and I loved every second of it. So I highly recommend. And look, we're matching. Those were all of the collections that I wanted to talk about today. If you love reading poetry, let me know what collections you would also recommend to any new beginners to spark their joy of poetry. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.